All right, so balsamic and thyme braised lamb shoulder. This is a dish we used to cook heaps of in a restaurant I worked at in London called Tom's Kitchen. It was owned by a chef owner called Tom Atkins, and his twin brother was working there as well at the time when I was working there. Both fantastic chefs. I think Rob now lives in the States, and Tom's still in Chelsea. So this dish is a version of that dish. Kind of adapted it a bit slightly for you guys to cook at home. And I'm gonna cook it in a slow cooker, just a domestic slow cooker. I think that works really well as a kind of set and forget type of dish. Bit of work in the morning, and then when you're kind of in the afternoon, it's all good to go. If you don't have a slow cooker, you can just do this in a covered pot or a Dutch oven in the oven. That works just as well. Or even a pressure cooker. So as far as ingredients, obviously we need a lamb shoulder. This is what's called an oyster cut lamb shoulder from the guys in Victoria at Hardworks. These guys produce some excellent lamb. And the oyster cut is kind of that top shoulder blade part. But if you want to do a whole lamb shoulder, you can definitely do that and adapt the recipe just by doubling the other ingredients, or not even doubling, maybe another half of the other ingredients. But you just want lamb shoulder. You want that intermuscular tissue and fat, which works really well on these slow braisers. So then we've just got some basic chicken stock. If you're buying the box type of chicken stock from the supermarket, make sure you're getting the low sodium one. Otherwise, when you reduce your sauce at the end, it does often become a bit too salty. And basic mirepoix, carrots and onions, some garlic, thyme, balsamic vinegar, obviously. And then we're going to do the shallots differently. We'll cook them separately so that we can really control how well they're cooked and they don't go kind of mushy. These shallots, when they're cooked like this, are delicious. They're super tasty. If you can't find these shallots, which I've referred to as banana shallots, I'm not sure, I think, well, maybe they're called French shallots as well. If you can't find these, just use baby onions. Let's get started. So first thing we need to do is get the lamb shoulder ready and sealed off before we put it in our slow cooker. So take your lamb out of your packet, dry it off, and then give it a good season with salt, but no pepper at this point. I find that the pepper burns a bit too much when you're trying to seal it off. In a heavy base fry pan with a decent amount of oil in it, put your lamb shoulder in with the fat side down. Now you're going to seal this off for about 10 to 15 minutes so you get good golden colour. And while that's happening, you can get your mirepoix sorted. So cut your onion in quarters and peel it. Slice your carrot on an angle. Just take the tops off, no need to peel it either. Cut a head of garlic in half and get your thyme ready. Now you can see we're starting to develop some good colour on this lamb, but we really want to emphasise how important it is to get as much colour as you can on this before you start doing your veggies. It's also important to seal this lamb on all sides, just to lock all that flavour in before you start slow cooking it. So once that's sealed, take it out and set it to the side, and then you can start getting some colour on your mirepoix. Now don't be as reckless as I am and be careful when you've got hot oil in a pan, just chucking your carrots in, but get some good colour on all sides on all your carrots and onions before you add your half garlic clove with the flesh side down and your thyme as well, just to start getting those oils out of it. You can notice there I've also tied the thyme together. That just stops it from falling apart and making it easier to pull out. In goes your balsamic vinegar just to deglaze the pan, and then that goes in the bottom of your slow cooker with your lamb on top. So now it's time to add the chicken stock, and on the recipe I've called for a litre of chicken stock, but just use your initiative as to how much you use because you don't want it to completely cover the lamb. You still want that delicious golden outside part protruding the stock level. Once you've got your stock in there, in goes the lid and into your slow cooker on low for 7 hours. And if you're doing this in an oven, then set your oven temperature to 80 degrees Celsius. Alright, so it's about 7 hours later and it's time to get our shallots ready. Now you see I've peeled these, but I've left the core intact, and that's super important so it doesn't fall apart when you cook it later. So once you've peeled them, just slice them in half, and with that core intact, it will stay together once you cook them. Onto a tray, and then just give them a good seasoning with salt, and then over to a pan on medium heat. That you can ideally put this pan in the oven, otherwise you have to take them out and put them on a tray. You can put them in the oven. So with a light drizzle of olive oil, put the shallots skin side down, and after about 2 or 3 minutes you can add your dollop of butter. Once your butter's all nice and browned, you can add your sprigs of thyme, and then check to make sure that you've got nice colour on the shallots before adding your balsamic vinegar. Into a 180 degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes, or until they're just cooked, nice. You can put a knife through them, but they're still holding together. All right, time to deal with this lamb shoulder. So pull your slow cooker out and get a tray ready for your lamb shoulder. And you're going to remove this lamb shoulder from the sauce nice and carefully, just making sure it doesn't fall apart on you. Now, it shouldn't fall apart after 7 hours. It should stay together, but it will be tender. So take your time and be delicate with it. So in a clean saucepan, through a fine mesh sieve, you're just going to pass your braising liquid off. And this is what's going to make the sauce. So it's super flavorful, but you just want to pass it and then give it a skim to make sure there's none of that lamb fat kind of on the top. You don't want that lamb fat emulsifying into your sauce. And friendly reminder to keep your bench clean while you're cooking. So once that's come to the boil, give it a taste. Make sure the seasoning's not too crazy just yet. And keep reducing this down until you've got the flavor or the seasoning kind of right where you want it. And I'll be tasting it every 5 to 6 minutes just to make sure. I did this for about 25 minutes until I was happy with it. All right, so your shallots should be ready now. Just pull those out and put them on the same tray as the lamb. We're going to flash that to reheat it when we're ready with the sauce. The sauce is tasting good, but I am going to cheat a bit, and we're going to thicken it with a bit of cornstarch, because after all, this is effectively a home cooking channel rather than a professional cooking channel. In the real world, in the restaurant world, we were never allowed to thicken our sauces with corn flour or roux or anything like that. These like very traditional kind of style sauces. But you know, hey, we're at home, we can do what we want. The only other thing I'd say is that it's a bit too forward on the carrot. So I think I just overdid it with the carrot. I think I put 2 in there. In the recipe, I'll put 1 on. I think it's going to be just a little bit less carrot, but other than that, it's a pretty tasty little sauce. So to thicken our sauce with corn flour, we're going to make what we call a slurry. So take your corn flour and then just dissolve it in some cold water before you pour it into your sauce. If you pour the corn flour directly into the sauce, it's just going to go all lumpy. So it's also important to whisk your slurry in while there's heat under the sauce. So now we're ready to plate. So you're going to reheat your lamb shoulder and shallots, and I've just done some mash here to have with it. And I think this is the perfect dish to serve family style like we are here. So take your lamb shoulder from the oven, carefully move it to your serving dish, and then now that you have your lamb shoulder successfully in your plating dish, it's time to pour some of that sauce all over it, and don't be shy with that sauce, pretty good stuff. So the final main garnish, your roasted shallots all over it, and then we're just going to finish it with a few picked thyme leaves as a little bit of extra garnish. And yes, I did cut myself, but I'm okay. We have it, balsamic and thyme braised lamb shoulder. Time to eat. Oh, just literally tears away. So delicious. The lamb's like perfectly tender. You know, it's not like, it doesn't dissolve in your mouth. It's delicious. With that creamy mash and the balsamic, it just works really well with lamb. You know, that kind of sweet acidity just works really well with the sweet meat of lamb. No wonder we used to sell so many of these. Stunning. Guys, definitely take the time to make this one day. Super comforting dish. The leftovers are really easy to use up as well. Chuck it in a pie, you know, make some tacos out of it. Lots of options for the leftovers. So make more than you think you're gonna need, because you'll thank me the next day when dinner's also sorted. You know the story, guys. Please like this video if you found it useful at all, or if you haven't. It helps me out immensely, you know, just gets that algorithm ticking. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, and click the little bell icon to make sure that you see every time I post. Until next week, stay safe, look after yourselves, and eat well. Peace. Mm.